What's going on, everybody, and welcome back. As you can see, the old XJ's back in the shop. This is on the third junkyard radiator already, and this one's starting to leak too. Luckily, AlloyWorks came through with a brand new aluminum triple fan radiator for the old XJ, so we're going to go ahead and stick that thing in today. Hopefully it works better. These XJs are notorious for overheating, warping, cracking the heads, blowing the engine. That's what happened to the original one that's in it, or that was in it. That's what took it down, is head issues from overheating. So anyway, hopefully this thing will solve all the problems. We're going to go ahead and stick it in, see how it works. All right, well, first off, let's check this thing out. Now, I think old Mortsky Repair got an AlloyWorks radiator before. I've never had one. Let's see what it's like. There we go, get you in frame a little bit. I'm using the little wireless mics again. Hopefully it's not blowing you out. Oh wow, these things are already installed. I thought the fans would be separate. I think these are the relays and whatnot. There we go. I'm no expert, but I think that's better than a junkyard one. So considering how bad these XJs are for overheating and whatnot, that's kind of why I'm making such a big deal about the radiator. You see people, they'll cut holes in the hood and they'll put vents and scoops and all kinds of crazy stuff all over them. This one's shrouded. You know, shrouds make a big difference. A lot of people don't run shrouds for some unknown reason, but shrouding makes a huge difference in your cooling. So if you're running an unshrouded radiator, you're kind of losing a lot of cooling performance. What's that? Oh man, I just bought one of these. It comes with one? Sweet. So well, I guess I broke it now. So yeah, new temperature gauge or temperature sender. That's pretty nice. It's got a little relay to turn them on. Looks like a inline fuse. Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty nice. Wonder how loud these fans are. All the welds look pretty good. I mean, it's nicely outfitted. It has the transcooler already installed inside of it and everything. One thing I just noticed is this entire shroud is removable. So there's these tabs right here, and then these bolts on the top. So you take off these little nuts, and the entire shroud and fan assembly will just come right off. So that's pretty nice, instead of having to just take off an individual fan if they fail, or modify it if you want to make your own shroud or take a fan off or something like that. You know, it's got these little slots down here. The entire shroud just pulls out. It comes with the adapter. That's pretty nice. Sweet. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start tearing this thing apart. All right, well, if I remember correctly, we've got all these nuts underneath this lip of this grill here, this front fascia, or whatever you want to call it. Then these two Torx on each side, then all the Torx up there in the front. These, I believe, are right in the radiator, so I don't know. We'll take all that stuff off and it should get us going. You ever seen these little flexible things? These things work great for stuff like this. Figures the last one. Just cut a slot in the top of that screw. There we go, we're out. Torx stuff kind of sucks. Especially up here in the rust belt, this Torx stuff, it takes a little bit of rust right down in the center of that to rust out those little points in that star. You're done. Some 8mm screws that hold these plastic shrouds on. Get those things off. One electric fan, gone. Oh yeah, I forgot this has a mechanical fan on it. the electric fan harness. Good time to remove the hoses, or at least this one up here. I guess we can see how much antifreeze I actually lost through this junk radiator. Got a bucket underneath it. Should catch a couple of drops. Well, we're kind of low. So we got this clutch fan under here. Can't get the shroud off without taking the radiator out. I probably should have pulled the whole grill right out, but you know, we'll make do. Well, I think I got a couple drops in the bucket.
How dare you!
Oh, I caught you on the way down. You almost broke again. There's a reason why I didn't throw away this big pile of wood shavings. Crisis averted. Tell you right now, these wood chips and stuff, the best oil dry ever. Well, I've seen worse. It's pretty bad though. At least there's not a bunch of oil in it. On second thought, I think I'm going to pull the grill right out of it. It'll just be easier and faster to do it that way than mess around with trying to pull the radiator straight out. One Jeep grill out. Alright, well that's quite a bit easier to mess around with. It's basically loose. We got a couple of lines to take off. One there, one down there. We're going to remove the clutch fan because we don't need that anymore. Just 4 nuts on those studs, which we'll just thread back down. We don't need that with this, so remove the condenser using a couple of these nuts right there. Pull the condenser off. I guess we'll reuse that. There's no charge in this AC system, and I don't think this compressor works anyway, so the AC system does not work in this vehicle. But we'll put it back on. Maybe I'll use it another day. If there are provisions for it. Maybe there are. I don't know. We'll check that out in a little bit. Yeah, we're getting close. It was pretty sweet of AlloyWorks to hook us up with that radiator. As you can see, this is in bad shape. I'll show you whenever I get it out. There is a leak up in here somewhere where it's leaking down, so it's not in great shape. So we really needed a radiator for it. I'm going to do my best to show you how these unclip. You're going to need one of these little tools. Basically, it's you just slide it over here, push it in, and it unsnaps it. There's these like little tiny things here. One of them, I think you can just pinch it with pliers. I don't remember if this is the one or not. I don't run into these all the time. There we go. So that's how they clip on. Then you can remove this if it's broke and put in a new one. But that's it. You get these at the auto parts store. I think they're like $8 or something like that. Now we just have to take off this line right there. These like to break, as you can see. It twisted on me the last time I was putting on. And then we should be pretty much good to go. The telltale sign of a junkyard radiator, they're writing on it. There we go. Well, there we go. It's out. You can't really tell right now, but whenever it gets super hot, it'll start to kind of sweat out from the top a little bit. So it needed to be replaced pretty bad. Condenser's in sort of rough shape. I don't even know if this thing leaks. If you watch the original video of this, whoever had this truck before caved in the original one. It was just completely smashed in like a U-shaped. This radiator is actually still good. Well, good enough. Like if I got another Jeep that needed a radiator, this does work enough. But we'll save that thing. This fan right here has to come off, so we're going to take the, I don't know where my flashlight went. Anyway, there's 4 nuts on the back of that thing. We'll spin that thing off. I'll tighten it back down on the pulley. Bada boom, bada bing, we're done. ain't going anywhere. I really don't know why I'm living the lie, and I think I'm going to somehow resurrect this dead AC system someday. So we're just going to delete this altogether. The system being open, as long as it was, it's totally contaminated. So you can't really just connect this stuff up, fill it with Freon. You know, it's got to be serviced. I don't know how to do that, nor do I have the tools to do it. So we're just going to go ahead and just remove this thing. I've been fighting through a bunch of rain out here. As I said, with this steel roof, I've had to cut the camera on and off a lot because it just starts raining and you can't hear anything in here. And the microphone just completely blows out the audio whenever the rain's on the roof. So might be a little choppy. That's all I got. First off, we've got a couple of little provisions here and on the bottom, and that is for the factory little rubber pads here that are on the radiator, and that's what the support sits on. I've been feeling a little under the weather these last few days or something like that, so it didn't even dawn on me. I'm like, why isn't this thing fitting? And then I looked at it and I realized, oh, it's because those things have to go on there. This kit doesn't come with any instructions of any kind, so you're just kind of left to your own devices to wing it and figure it out. Also something to keep in mind. There's 380 watt fans on this thing. So what is that, 240 watts that it's supposed to draw? The way that these pigtails are just kind of all set up and the way the wiring is that they give you with it, they would all come on at one time. So draw 240 watts. I don't know how many amps they pull each. I don't know. But this is the harness that they give you with it for the relay. Now, you know, the jacket on here looks pretty beefy, you know, at first, but then the wiring on the inside is pretty small. Now, I'm sure AlloyWorks doesn't build these and whatever. They just buy them and then include them with their kit. But I'm not sure that I would trust this little wire to run all three of those fans at one time. So the best thing you could do is upgrade to some beefy power wires. Now, if you're not familiar with what a relay does, is it uses a low current side to control a high current side. So you can use just a regular switch inside your dash, like a little toggle or something like that, to basically switch over and control something that draws a ton of current, like these fans or, you know, big lights or whatever, a winch, whatever you got, you know what I mean? So that's what that does. So again, yeah, try to upgrade to some heavy duty wiring. This is 10 gauge, and then you'll just have to depin these little connectors here. You know, depin them means like they're locked in there so they don't just fall out in your hand. I made this little tool out of a, you know, 030 feeler gauge. Basically that end right there. You just stick it right down inside of that little tiny gap there, push down, and it unlocks this little lock tab right there and allows the wiring to slide out of here. Now here's kind of something that I've ran into trying to find connectors for this thing. I've went to 6 places, all the auto parts stores, all the farm stores, Harbor Freight, everywhere. I can't find any terminals with the locking tabs on them. None of them have it. So here's O'Reilly's, no locking tabs. This one is a Harbor Freight one, no locking tabs. Farm store, yeah, I think this is the farm store one. I don't remember. Yeah, farm store one, no locking tabs. So yeah, it's pretty tough. Now, if you try to use these things, they're not going to lock into this thing. They're just going to fall out in your hand. And these things are numbered. They do, you know, there are numbers on them, and all the wires are supposed to go to specific spots. So if your wires are constantly falling out, it's a big, you know, big headache. I haven't been able to find these locally. So if you're going to do something like this, just go ahead and order some online and get ones with those little locking tabs and make your life easier. If you guys know of a source for them locally around your area, let me know, because out of the 60 different packs of wiring that they had at O'Reilly's, none of them had this little tab that we need. So this is a little hack that I made. I just took a normal one and I just cut it with a Dremel tool, pried it up with a screwdriver, and there we go. It kind of works as like a basic lock. All that'll do is keep these wires from just falling out every time that we move this thing. It's not as nice as having the real locking tabs, but it does unlock the same way as a real one, and it does hold the wiring into place. Once you get the relay kind of stuck on there, it's really not such a big deal, but if you ever have to swap the relay out, you don't want all your wires falling out and all that different stuff. So that's that on the locking tabs, but basically the white wire and the black wire, we don't really need to have heavy gauge wire on. This black one, you don't need this eyelet at all. I don't know why it's there, but this goes to your temp sender. So this is the little temp sender. Whenever it gets up the temperature, it closes the contact in there and then completes the circuit and allows the fans to come on. I'm not entirely sure if they want me to remove the factory temp sender on this one. It might throw a check engine light if I unplug this thing and then put in their temp sender. I'm not exactly sure. An XJ has two. It has the temperature sender, and then the temp switch is in the back there. Can't really see it. It's right back in there. And that switch controls the gauge on your cluster, and then this controls when your electric fan would come on up here. Now you saw that it did have the mechanical fan that I took off, but if I replace that one with this one, then the factory thing just won't get any reading from this temperature gauge because it won't be there. If this one goes in its place, which it does fit, then, you know, I guess it'll work. I've read that these are a lower temperature. They come out like 160 or something like that. I don't know. But anyways, black is to the temperature sender. White is to your keyed ignition. So some source that gets power when you turn your key on so that it can actually provide power to the relay for the fans. You do not want to wire it straight to your battery because your fans would never shut off then. You want to be able to shut them off, you know, shut off the entire circuit with your key and turn it on with your key, unless you have a specific reason to have your fans run all the time. But, you know, that's up to you. The black one, like I said, goes to temp sender. Blue one goes out to your fans. So this is the main power to your fan. So you can see right there, black, and then there's the ground for your fans. So there are no other pigtails that they provide you with. It's just this and what you see here. So you can wire them up any way that you want to. Get weather pack connectors and cut these off, whatever you want. I'm just going to run the spade terminals directly into there and just be done with it. But the biggest thing is you want your power, the red one for your battery, to be heavy gauge wire. So that's coming right from your battery. This 10 gauge is more than adequate for that. And then you want heavy gauge going out to your fans. Then it'll split and go to all three. So I guess no one's really had a problem running each fan, but you want to provide as much current as you can at the source where all three of these will plug in. So however you want to do that, I'll figure it out as we go along. Just keep in mind, you want to run heavier duty wire to your relays. Don't just count on this because it could overheat potentially and who knows what'll happen. On a side note, if you paint your cars nice, you can't use the hood as a workbench. Paint's overrated. Anyways, I'm going to do all of this like little tedious wiring, crimping and measuring all that off camera. I've got the little pads. Got to get those things on the new radiator and whatnot. I'm going to do that off camera so I can run the fan, listen to some audiobooks, and then you guys don't have to deal with all of that nonsense. We will have to modify this little header panel thing in order to make the water neck for the radiator fit and all that. So there's going to be some fabbing and trimming and whatnot. Maybe not fabbing, but anyway, we're going to have to make it fit. So once I get done with the tedious stuff, I'll come on back and we'll figure out how to do the rest of it. All right, well, that's how those things go on there. This is not quite the same shape. So I had to elongate the stock holes. They're normally like this, and they just travel across. I had to bring those things down using the razor blade maker. Hate this thing. And then I just cut out some slots so that these pads can tip forward. What I'm running into is, that's kind of the electrical boss, I think. Yeah, where all the wires come out of the fan. It's basically touching those nuts right there. I did cut those off, so they had studs on them. They had studs on them about like yay long. That's the blown up engine that was in this truck when I got it. So I did cut those studs off. So what I'm trying to do right now, I don't know, I would assume they're all like this, I guess. What I'm trying to do right now is relocate the thing forward a little bit. Since I'm not using the condenser anymore, I don't think I'm going to have any issues with it. And I think there's even enough room with the grill that I can move it. So I'm trying to relocate this. The bottom ones, they fit into that like little rubber grommet down there, little feet. So if I can just get this thing to move forward some, I won't run into any issues. I'm going to have to tie down this wiring pretty substantially so that it doesn't actually, run into those nuts and then wrap up the fan wiring. So right now, these tabs right here, you can see they kind of dip down a little bit. It had all of the body clips in there for the original fans and whatnot. All in here. I want to take a flap disc and just kind of take all of this stuff down just a tad bit. This header panel, the inside lip does rest right on the aluminum radiator, so I do want to take that off. So essentially, just this side and just that side is holding this on with these 2 bolts, and this back piece on this, that back lip there is not touching the radiator like at all in any way, shape, or form. I don't want the vibrations to just rub through, make a weak spot, and then the thing, have a leak. Also, you can still see that I have almost no room there. So even though I made some room, I can pull it forward that much. It seems like enough, but I'm going to elongate this probably all the way out, use a big washer, and just pull it straight on down. So basically my biggest fear is, I do want to take this thing off-road a little bit, nothing super extreme, but it is going to get taken on some trails and whatnot. If we go over a hill sideways, maybe there'd be enough body flex and, just variations in the rubber mounts and everything for the engine that pulley could come in contact with this fan and just destroy it. There's, for as much work as it's going to be to just move these things forward and adjust this right now, if I could get an inch of space in there, it's just peace of mind that any bump that I have, I'm not going to end up allowing those nuts to just tear, the wiring right off of the fan. Alright, so don't judge, this is just rough. I just ran all the stuff and kind of laid it all out. This has, like I said, the 3 fans, and if they really are 80 watts and 12 volt, then this thing should draw about 20 amps of current, 20 point something whenever they're full on. Now, I don't know, being that I've never used these fans before, I don't know if that is just initial startup amperage, what they run whenever they're just on. It's got a 30 amp provided fuse, which I put in. I did buy some circuit breakers for it, but I don't know if I'll put those in or not. I did deep in and put in all of the 10 gauge wire for the powers and grounds. So this is power from the battery. This is power out to the fan. This is your ground. And then this is keyed on, power ignition type of thing. I did check. There aren't any ignition power sources under the hood that I could find, so I'll have to run a new line in from the dash up to here to this relay. I'm going to probably mount the relay right down in there. Got to figure out how to route it around the battery and whatnot. Each one of these harnesses are on like its own mini harness, so all the grounds, go together, and then they're on like a quick disconnect here, and then pinned together with a copper ferrule, and then soldered where I could, and then heat shrunk with marine grade heat shrink. These are the copper ferrules. If you're using anything like that, you can just get these at Home Depot. They're pretty nice. So just crimp them all down. So all the grounds are on their one mini circuit. All of the powers on their own little mini circuit. There's one of those quick disconnects right there. Then the bridge, I guess. Then where they're all connected in the ferrules. And then we're good to go. So 30 amp fuse holder. All of these things really need to be upgraded to something nice like a weather pack. And I just didn't buy any of these connectors because I probably will order weather pack connectors for them. So I left a little extra length on each one. Now all I have to do is wrap it all in some of this loom. I've got some of this nice Tessa tape here to wrap everything in. Should keep everything good to go. I did drill some holes in there and zip tie things into place just so I can run it all. I'm going to put it all on the inside like that. So I'm going to drill a couple more holes in this little header panel here and get everything kind of running where it needs to go. Here's the positive for the battery. The battery, or I'm sorry, the fan negatives, the grounds for the fans, they just get grounded right to the negative on the battery or the body, and then the negative out of the relay goes right to the temperature sensor. Okay, but on the Jeeps, it's kind of throwing me for a little bit of a loop. On the Jeeps, you've got, this is the temperature sensor. All right, it's up there on the thermostat housing, and that thing talks right to the computer. And I guess it's a variable resistor. You got power and whatever coming in, I guess. I tried to find a diagram online for this, and I just couldn't. I don't know if I could have used one of those wires to control the ground for this, but, you know, for the fans to kick on. But anyway, I couldn't figure out how to make that work. On these Jeeps, these 4 liters, I guess it's with other Jeeps too, you also have a temperature switch. And that's right there, and it controls the gauge on your dash. The switch that they give you is just this little 1-wire type of deal. And once this thing gets hot enough down in the sensor, it just closes and grounds right to the body of this thing. And that's how you would get your ground for your fans. Now this thing is a little bit too long. And there's not really a good way to make a T or anything to, you know, kind of fit it down in there. So I'm going to modify another thermostat housing, which is right here. It already has a boss on there for something, and then it's just got 2 1/2-inch bolts right there. Inside of here, you can see that someone bottomed out one of the sensors already on here. That's probably me. And then, you know, you've got this boss going in right there where we can mount our sensor. Now, apparently there's a place on the block that you can use, but I don't have one of those little weird size square drive sockets, and it's hidden underneath the exhaust manifold, so I can barely get to it even if I did have the right tool to take out that little plug. There's a plug on it. Apparently that right there is one of the plugs. There's another one in the back, but this is all hidden underneath motor mounts and stuff on my Jeep, so can't really use that. Anyway, I stole the thermostat housing off of this one. These are NPT, so National Pipe Thread, which basically means that they taper. As you can see, they're not straight. They kind of taper down, and they're a little bit of a different pitch than a standard bolt or whatever. All right, well, I got a new belt, so we're going to go ahead and throw that on here in just a minute. Bought a couple more temperature switches. It might be a little bit shorter. We'll see. All right, we got a new belt. It's the right length. Apparently this particular engine has a different size belt for some reason that other ones don't have. This is a 98-inch belt, probably 97, and then it might have stretched an inch. I don't know, whatever. But that's it. And then there's one thing that's taken up a day and a half of time. Sensors, switches, and that belt, really. A lot of trips back and forth to auto parts store. I'll show you what the main stumbling area is with this thing. Mainly it's this switch. So, and mainly it's this entire thermostat housing. Now, it's not very big from the factory. The switch, you know, that's actually too long. I can't take this switch out and put it in this spot because it's too deep to fit in here. You'll crush it. It's shallow enough that this switch won't even thread into here. So I can't even take this one out and put the other switch in here and just leave this out. So if anybody had like, well, why don't you just take the switch and swap it in place? It won't fit. I do have some other switches on order. I ordered them on Amazon. They won't be here for a few days, so there's nothing I can do about it. I can't even order a switch at an auto parts store because they don't know how to look it up, or they can't look it up. Their system won't allow them to look it up, whatever it is. I can't get a switch through an auto parts store. And I bought several switches, and they all end up being sensors, which don't work. I need to not put everything on until I get the switch in, so I don't have to take the whole front end off again just to replace that one switch. Our troubles are over, dude. I ordered this painless wiring temperature switch. Look at how nice and tiny it is. Nice and small and shallow. Should work out good. It turns on at 185, off at 175, plus I can override it easy. But I think we'll be able to thread it in all the way without having all the interference problems that we had before. Let's give it a shot. Huge difference. This is going to work out great. There we go. Way better. I've got it as close as I feel comfortable. It's as far in as I can really get it without, feeling like I'm going to crack the housing. There is no more interference. So we're good to go. Way to go, painless wiring. That's awesome. So whereas this one had the one tab, and then it was supposed to ground through the body, and then the body would end up being the ground, this one is just ground in, and then once the switch closes, ground out. So as long as the switch is open, this will have nothing on it until it closes, and then this one will be grounded. So you have to ground this one out to somewhere on the engine, right there, who knows, wherever, doesn't matter, right here, who cares. Then our stock sensor will be fine. Brand new switch, problems are solved. The painless wiring switch making a big difference already. I just got it grounded to a head bolt right there. And then this thing goes back. I don't know if it's a great idea to have it just, attached to the radiator hose, but that was the easiest way to get it away from all of these pulleys and whatnot. It goes back in here. So I'm using the stock ground location right here. So this is the 12 volt negative for the fans. They're just going ground right to the body there. Got the relay all wired up, all the heavy gauge stuff, power from the battery, and then power out to the fans. I've got my negative that goes to the switch, and then to the override switch inside the truck, and then the 12 volt key on ignition power that goes to the fuse box inside the truck. So this black one, of course, goes across here, goes to the switch. When it reaches temperature, grounds out, turns the fan on. Or I can use this which was already in the Jeep. Somebody apparently had some lights or something like that connected up in here one time, so I just cleaned up some of the wiring and utilized that switch right there. So if the fans aren't on, or if that switch goes bad or something, I can just override it and turn the fans on this way. And it'll only work when the battery, or when the key is on, ignition power, so I don't have to worry about accidentally forgetting it and it sucking down my whole battery. So that's basically it. Took a lot longer than I was expecting. But yeah, got all that run. I ran out of loom wrap, but it's all zip tied down. Goes into the factory grommet there. The switch ground for the override switch is grounded right there to the hinge. All of these are rubber isolated except for this one, which I couldn't actually get out for some reason. It's like stuck in there. I don't know if I'm going to break it off or whatever. So I just left it. And that's basically it. Got the fuse. I might take the fuse out eventually and put a circuit breaker in there, but for right now it's fine. And we should be good to go. Now, the fitment issue with the fans is, as you can see down in there, things are pretty tight. I kind of cut all these things out to allow the fan to move forward. Since it doesn't have AC, I don't think it's going to be a problem because there's no condenser, any issues, running into the grill or anything. So all I got to do is move the radiator forward and make a new hole up in here. I cut up some little sheet metal tabs. I'm going to weld them on there, drill a hole in these, weld them on right here, and that'll allow me to adjust the position of the radiator. Once I can move it forward, see, I've got like a 1/2 inch now, something like that, 3/4 of an inch. Should be more than enough room. I just have to, make a new spot there to hold the radiator in place so it doesn't have the ability to move back and forth like I hit a bump or something like that. It can't slip in this slot. So I'm going to basically weld up the slot, put the bolts on it. Should be good to go. Well, we're just kind of drying up this paint. Looks all right. And there it is. It's on. Got a 1/2 inch of space back there. I think it'll be fine. Everything should be good. I did stick the grill up in here real quick just to kind of make sure it all fit, and it does. I did bolt down this AC, whatever, the condenser, plumbing and stuff. It should be good. They're on there. Got the studs up there so I can bolt it down. Still got our little bit of clearance down there, so should be all right. And I guess now we can wire up the fans and just kind of give it a shot and see if they work. I'm sure they work, but make sure that the override switch works. And there we go. Lots of airflow. The benefits of a shroud. That thing ain't gonna overheat. Well, they work. That's great. This fan sounds like it's kind of rubbing just a little tick sound, so maybe it'll self-clearance over time, or maybe it just sounds like that, I don't know. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lock down all this wiring, finish bolting everything into place, make sure it's all good. Once that's all set, I gotta, put the hoses on, fill it with fluid, and then we'll start it up and let it come up to temp on its own and see if the switch works. I'll take care of all this. Once it's all done, we'll come back and see how they work on their own. The old XJ's coming around. If you haven't ever seen this truck on the channel, or you're new to the channel, welcome. Glad that you came by. Glad you're hanging out. There we go. You see it bubbling out of there. We are good. Full up. Man, it is shocking just how destroyed this shop is right now. It's going to need a lot of help. a lot of hours cleaning. Anyway, let's open the door up and give it a shot. Damn it. This place there's just no more room in here. So the camera's broke again. I think it's on its last leg now. The light held up. No problems. It hit the ground hard. So anyway, let's get back to the radiator. Should just fire it up. Wait a few minutes. I'm pretty sure everything's going to be good. We got a leak. Well, that's definitely it. None of the sensors are leaking or anything. Oh, it's leaking a lot. Wow. I did lap the back of this. It's nice and flat, but you can see right here, there's the crack. Goes all the way through, all around this radius here. And then who knows where. So I'm going to have to throw this thing in a sandblaster, hit it with the TIG welder, see if I can get it to stick. This thing was caked with oil and grease. A lot of times, once these castings are totally soaked with all this nasty crap, it makes it really hard to weld them. But I guess we'll find out. Might not look pretty, but hopefully it'll hold. All right, well, I welded on that old part so good that I just had to go buy a brand new part. It is what it is. That I couldn't get that thing to weld for crap. It was garbage. This was $20 at the parts store. Got a brand new gasket. Everything's good to go. I took it over to Rob's already, and we drilled and tapped this for the temperature switch. We should be all good. Rob even tried welding on that old part too, and he wasn't having any luck with it. So if Rob can't weld it, it almost can't be welded. He's a pro welder. So I don't feel so bad about my failures on those old cheap cast parts now. So whatever. It is what it is. Anyway, we got all the parts to make it work. This should be it. Should solve our problems. Let's throw it in here and get this Jeep done. This is where I broke my camera yesterday. So let's see if the fans still work. I got everything basically connected up. We'll just see if the electric fans work on the override. Then we'll start it up and let it come up to 10. So we're good to go on that. Let me open up the door. We'll fire it up. Let it come up to temp on its own. Then I just got to button up things like this and tighten on the battery and that should basically be it. Let me just double check, make sure I'm not leaving tools laying out on. Oh, the belt isn't on. Probably should do that. It's funny about that. Things don't leak when they're not broke. The old Jeep sure runs good. Nothing leaking. Let's see how we're doing in here. Well, I don't know how close that thing really is. But if that's really 210, our fans aren't on yet. It really doesn't smell that hot. I mean, it doesn't feel like it's 210 degrees. It's pretty hot. Well, it's open for sure now. Well, that sucks. That gauge has to be wrong. I don't think that's 210. Oh, hey. Our fans are on. There we go. All right, well, I topped it up and then the fans just shut off. So the fans say that they'll come on between 185. They'll come on at 185, shut off at 175. So 210 degrees is apparently 175. I mean, it's hovering like right around 210. So I guess that's the optimal range for this thing, because it doesn't feel hot, doesn't smell hot. I mean, it's just, this isn't hot. Definitely not hot at all. Man, this big old radiator sure is a nice upgrade. So let me get the front end all on this thing. Check back in a few when we're all done. And there you have it, folks. It's just as simple as that. You know, 1996 Jeep Cherokee XJ aluminum radiator triple electric fan conversion. I think it came out pretty well. It works good, and the radiator is super nice. Thanks a lot to AlloyWorks for sponsoring the radiator for the little radiator project we had going on. Not sure if you would have done things differently or not, but this is the way I did it. Their radiator is super nice. All of their info is in the video description. If you need a radiator, be sure to check them out. They might have one for your application. This one, all the welds were nice, fitment was nice, bungs were nice. Just a nice radiator, so don't forget to check them out. If you want to see a playlist on how this thing went from being a $200 scrapper, blown engine, two-wheel drive, no interior, filled with junk, to what it is now, there's a playlist or a card right there with a playlist on it. I'm exhausted. It is 2:56 a.m. I have a car show tomorrow. And I'm exhausted. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. If you would have done things different, leave comments below. And yeah, thanks a lot. Check out AlloyWorks. I'm going to bed. Good night.